この力を使ってでも
Cosmic here, welcome to the channel, and we had just finished up farming our OTK build, or the one-turn kill build for Chizuru, and just trying to max out the shadow attack and doing as much damage as you possibly can. So I wanted to break it down, showcase the characters that I've used, talk through each one of their kits, and then just do a one-of family head run at the end so you can see how it flows and why it really comes together. So if you like to see these types of character guides, make sure to like and subscribe, as it does help out the channel a ton. But otherwise, let's just dive in, and I am going to go character by character and just give you the full stats breakdown if you want. But of course, the most important thing for us to start with is going to be Chizuru. For her partner, I'm just using Zatera because I wanted the extra attack, and well, the options are quite terrible unless you are using her 5-star partner, which again I do not have, so I cannot personally test. And the save data is the important part. So yes, we are using as many copies of the Tsukiyomi as we can. Obviously, this would be better if we had either the extra draw epiphany to it or other ways that's going to boost it. And I'll talk about as we're going through in the various cards and where upgrades would be really nice. And one of the ones I do want to stress, as if you caught the stream, if you want to go back and watch a few more runs of this other than the one that will be provided in this video, Karmic Flames feels so bad if you don't get the exhaust version, and I've proven out multiple times in the runs that we were doing of why you just don't want this card in your deck, and it'll make more sense as we talk about maybe one of the other characters. But effectively, you just want to apply the buff once and then never see it again. The most important thing of looping this deck is understanding that you want to play all 4 copies of Tsukiyomi every single turn if possible, and having all these extra cards in your deck are going to work against that. So I will say we do have the Bound at Dusk, which is just the 2 random cards, and it's really important to note here that it is other combatants, so this will never trigger your own cards, which is very good because 1, we want to stack our Shadow of the Moon, and 2, everything else in our deck is mostly free that we want to be playing, so this being able to cast other cards is great. Now, at some point, yes, we will need to use our Oni Hunt upgrade that is going to give us the plus 40% damage amount, which is just helps out a ton, and does give us the Will of the Wisps to get started. Now, for this one, it's really just about getting the card out of your deck so that you can more consistently find your attacks that are going to draw you into Tsukiyomi and bring it all together. Now, for the gear itself, none of these are going to be fully optimized. Now, I will say overall, I really do like Sphere of Randomness, and if I could, for this build in particular, honestly, just give all 3 of my characters Sphere of Randomness just so I can get all the extra draw, just to make sure that I'm looping my deck for that first turn and playing out all of our upgrades, because spoiler, there is a ton, but if we're getting a net AP with this as well, then it does all even out. For the weapon itself, again, in this case, it is just going to be kind of a what you have. I know a lot of people take the other one that's like plus 20 for each one you draw. We can't really make use of that. Mutant Predator Spike, you're going to find out that we don't often have 4 cards in our hand anyways, because the big combo turn is usually going through all of our Tsukiyomis, and then, well, we don't get the buff from this anyways. But in this case, just find a better gear in that case, you know, whichever one is going to give you attack. For us, you know, as we were going through this, we didn't really have much luck in finding it. And then for our assault boots, it's kind of whatever, right? So that all worked out just fine. And then I will say for our potentials, this is just showcasing that it is maxed out. Our memory fragments, I am using the 1-cost set here. Now, I know there's a lot of, you know, comments around the 2-2-2 split or this one. We did a few runs on stream of trying out the 2-2-2 split versus just going all in on the big combo, with the Conquerors giving us that very meaty plus 35% crit damage. And at least for how it worked, it's a very small sample size, but Conquerors did do more damage in the runs that we completed on the stream. Now, I do need to go run this through a damage calculator and actually figure all of that out, which I'll have a pinned comment once I have find a better damage calculator to use that factors in all of this. So I'll try to come back and make a pinned comment on just like where does the numbers actually lie on that, but I don't have a good 2-2-2 set either. Like, my stats are pretty insane for these 6 pieces in particular, so that's probably why, at least in these short runs, it worked out the way it did. And then for ego fragments, just showing that this is a E0 build. I'm not hiding anything and just want to showcase that here. Now, the one that's probably going to surprise a lot of people is going to be Hugo, which, as I was theory crafting this on stream the last couple days, I'm like, you know what? He has just such the perfect card for this as a setup character that he probably does work out. Now, for partners, I'm just using Rosaria here because it's just, well, what I have for the most part. And we aren't really going to get much use out of the upgrade or skill cards because we're just doing pure attack at this point. But what is really nice is the extra draw that we can get from this, because there are going to be some turns that we just brick because we don't have as much deck optimization as I'd want to. But at least from a initial go at this and try to help other people build out the decks, I was pretty happy with it. And notably, we actually did get the Tentacles of Chaos, which is so great because we are able to boost Chizuru's damage with this with a plus 8% ally attack. Now, again, I will say for me personally, I'd probably just still take the Sphere of Randomness here just to help out that starting turn, which is so important as you're going through, but it certainly wasn't a bad one to get. And then I did get Water Drops of the Goddess to give us the storage, which just means for a turn, if you don't spend all of your action points, they'll get carried over into a following turn. Now, this is one that if I had the option, I really would have liked the Superconductive Protein, because that is going to reduce the cost by one for a card in your hand. And a lot of times you'll draw a bunch of extra cards or have that good setup, but then again, just don't have the couple extra APs that you need to really make it all work. Now, why this all works out is because of this version of Quick Fix, which is just a flat draw too. So many people were focusing on Veronica, which Veronica's downside is that she only draws cards from the other combatants unless you get the perfect divine on her and then copy that multiple times. From a like easier to build, low cost investment, whatever, I do think Quick Fix is just going to be better for a lot of people. And of course, if you high roll and you get the divine that makes this free, well, then it probably is just going to be the best overall, because then you're just able to churn through your deck every single turn. Now, for Hunting Instincts, we just at least got to keep the one that's Initiation, which is really nice. 2 agony to all enemies is whatever. You really want this to be a morale buff in this case. So I can't stress that enough. Like, for all of our upgrades, every single, or I guess that one can't get the upgrade, right? But Dingo Howling, which can upgrade into a card. So while this one is like the second best option, I would say, because it draws you 2 attack cards, and you'll find out again that most of our attack cards are going to be Quick Fix, which just helps us loop. If we go to Dingo Howling, and if we look at the upgrade card, this would be a lot better. One, it's going to thin the deck, so it's a one less card that we have to worry about. It's going to draw us a attack card, which if it draws Quick Fix, obviously again it's going to help us churn through the rest of our deck. But then also we could get a divine on here to give us morale, which would be the best in slot buff, because additive buffs are just so good when we're attacking for 20, 30, or 40 hits and multiplying out that damage that you're going to gain. Now, the other one that is worth noting that I didn't get the right version of is Fan of Daggers. And while this one doesn't really add anything to the build because we already attack enough, we already cycle enough, I would honestly just get this upgrade because we're going to be able to play it for free at some point off of Chizuru's ability. And we just don't want to draw a blank card in the sense of, like, you know, none of these other attacks really matter. We have enough attacks to do what we want to do. We're always going to get to bind 5. So just get even more upgrades, because as we go back to the save data example that we had here, right? If these 3 were all upgrades, or excuse me, 4 were all upgrades, we would effectively have a 3-card deck that just allows us to cycle Quick Fix over and over, which again is so important because that just means we can get back into Tsukiyomi. And then I have the Assault Gauntlets, which really just don't do anything for us. You know, I didn't find a better chest piece, but, you know, sure, it gives us counterattack at the start because why not? Now, you will notice potentials. I am very behind on here. I just don't have them upgraded as much as I want. Again, he's really not doing a ton of damage himself. Getting this upgraded, of course, would be nice. But then for memory fragments, I am just using the Bullet of Order because we are able to have a additive buff, which is really nice. And our last character is that we're going to talk about is actually buffing his hunting quite a bit. And then unfortunately, like, this is not great stats otherwise. So let me go back to this really quick just to show the full breakdown. Our Hugo could be a lot better equipped and what have you, but he's really just great here for showing us the value of quick fix, which has been so strong, and I just truly cannot stress that enough. And then lastly, for the Manifest Ego, for this one, I do have the E1, which plus 10% to the damage amount increase effect for comments, the hunt for fixers. So this is one of his upgrade cards, but again, it's not really the main source of damage. So it doesn't really matter for us. I don't think any of these are actually really good for him now that I think about it, unless you get to like E6 or something. And then the last one that I really got to talk about is Ray. So Ray is going to be, and continues to be in our testing, the absolute best character for boosting the damage of Shadow. And why is that, right? So, and then really quickly for partners here, we're just going to use Nyx for, again, deck shuffling just in case we need it. But more importantly is this beautiful build, which we were able to get on stream. The weapon doesn't matter. We did get the mulligan piece, which was really nice, but also super important is super conductive protein, because it does allow us to churn through more of our deck on turn 1, which we certainly really appreciate. But when this deck goes through, we have just a 1 card left, and yes, it is Predator's Blade, which we do want that morale buff, which is really nice. But what's important to note here is that, like, I almost wish I had maybe a second one, just because like the ideal turn is going to be casting this twice and then just having all the hits stack up. But I really want to give a shout out to this version of Dark Condensation, because again, it is a upgrade, so it's thinning out our deck even more to work with the Hugo plan, but also just gives us that plus 50, which is like, you know, 2.5 morales worth of value. And we got the Divine, which is really nice this here as well. But we didn't get another copy that we wanted, so instead we just have these snack times, which is a free draw 2 that then removes itself. Really, again, this is all about thinning out our deck, making sure we can get all those upgrades, and then just going in and spamming what we need. And then last but not least, we have Resonating Darkness, which is another just plus 60% additive here, which is equivalent to 3 morale. So just by the nature of existing, we effectively have the 60 here, the 50 here, and then we also have the Oni, which is adding more. So we do have, I think, what was that, 7 to 8 morale effectively baked into the kit. But we could also then get even more, you know, because this could have a morale on it as well. I would also argue that maybe the cost reduction for this was nice, but if I could also let this have the morale boost. And those are just the little bit of ways you can look for a bit more damage. And then again, with Hugo getting into the upgrades, all having a morale boost as well. So I want to stress that this is probably like the low end of what this full combo wants to do, but I'm happy enough with this build as a proof of concept and working and showcasing and shortly here why all of this works the way that it does, that I wanted to do a quick video on it. And of course, if you have, you know, extra ego manifestations, if you have other improvements for her, obviously that's going to boost it even more. I guess that is the one thing I will say too here, right? For potentials, we don't really have anything here itself, but what we do have is the Manifest Ego at E6, which does give us a nice multiplicative plus 20% buff, which does help out a considerable amount. So do keep that in mind. And for memory fragments, again, I really just don't have anything here at the time of recording. If you want to do these, the support buff, you normally would do like the HP plus defense stuff. You absolutely can. Again, the main source of damage, the 90% of damage, is going to ultimately come from Chizuru with all the setup, and then 9% of that from Hugo, and then 1% from Ray, because she's really just here to boost up the rest of your team. So with that, we are going to just now quickly get into the run itself. And again, this is just going to be a one take going through it. We have our team. I'll talk through some of the turns as it goes, but I'm not going to sit here and reset and get like the perfect start for everything and try to showcase something otherwise, right? So this is a good start for us though, because we have quick fix, which is going to be a draw. Seeing the Shadow of Moon, this could just be a free recycle because we're going to generate it and we can draw into this later. So this one I will say, but Karmic Flames we do want to see just so we can start getting our buffs. And then of course these two are really nice. So the downside here is that the free cost did hit the Shadow of the Moon. So that is going to limit a little bit on what our turn can do. So We're going to start with Hugo's upgrade because it does get a boost as we're playing the other cards, and that is really important for Quick Fix, which is only going to draw us cards if we have the hunt commence. So before we play Karmic Flames, we want to make sure that we are using a bunch of our cards here and getting out the value where we can. So unfortunately, a little bit of a slower start for us. We are just going to go through and see where it combos off, and I don't know exactly what the absolute best timing is going to be. I'm just going to try to go to 8 turns because that's what we did on stream and try to keep things as even as possible. And this is where I really like Dingo Howling because you'll notice now that it's going to draw us to attack cards, and because of the way our deck is optimized, we are going to draw into these quick fixes, which then is going to churn back into those other cards that we discarded. So we're going to quickly just burn through our cards, making sure that we're keeping our stacks high, and you're going to see that it's going to draw us a bunch of extra stuff here as well. Now, I should have left one of the APs here just in case we got the other upgrades, but we will just deck shuffle here. We'll get our upgrade out of our deck and then put the rest of these back in as a way to hopefully go through a second shuffle. So here we are just going to let these go back in and save the snack time because it has retain until we can get more value out of our turn. So a couple of unlucky turns as it were back to back, but we can go back into here, play out some more of our combos, play out these upgrades, try to find more of our draw pieces because we don't really need to use Predator's Blade yet, and go into another quick fix because all that matters here is that we find our Tsukiyomis to start to stack this as much as we can. And again, if we add in a draw, we have another draw option here. But we're going to let this go through, just try to keep cycling this over and over. You can start to see, again, where Shadow of the Moon is starting to get that damage stacked up very nicely. And again, keep in mind that we don't have to worry about the buff from Chizuru using Shadow of the Moon because it's always going to use cards from the other combatants. So again, just burning through here, you know, we'll have Bind 5 this turn, or I guess we can use the daggers here. So turn 4, Bind 5 is just a point of reference. Here we want to look at what we have left in our deck. We have 2 Tsukiyomi, so drawing the attack cards doesn't really do anything for us here. So instead we'll just, I guess we'll get a little bit of healing while we can. So we'll just use our Predator's Blade, get into our Tsukiyomis here, and then start this whole loop again. Very nice that we get another quick fix there to draw some cards. Use out our Tsukiyomis. Use another quick fix. Use another Predator's Blade because we can, once we get these next 2 draws. Waiting for it to do all the animations. Perfect, find another one, and then there's only 1 Dingo Howling left, so we want to save this for the next turn, just in case we don't draw one of our quick fixes, so we'll let this hand go as is. Take a little bit of a hit here, but getting more of those, again, free activations because those were on top, and we drew into our Tsukiyomis here, which is really nice. Wow, that full combo is what that feels like, so. We are having to be mindful of the debuff that he has, so we're going to try to do some extra attacks here. You can see our full hand now, so of the Tsukiyomi, so we're actually going to be able to do it on this turn, so we're not going to go the full clip because we got what we wanted out of this. So it's turn 6. It's a little bit earlier. This is definitely not like the most optimized version of this, but for the sake of the video, because he is so low, it looks like we might actually be able to get the full kill with some crits. So you'll notice here it's at 235 times 29. This is now going to go up to 359 because of the morale boost. I am going to use all of my Tsukiyomis, and you know, if I had the draw here, it would be really nice just to fill up our hand for the extra modifier. So we'll just draw a card, see what we get. This actually does draw us an extra card, but unfortunately we've used our entire deck this turn, so we still can't we can't use Nyx to force the shuffle here. So this will be 359 of turn 6, 37 hits, so not as much as it was in the opening clip, but now we'll get to see the damage do its funny meme numbers, right? So not as strong for the crits because we didn't have as many modifiers, but it's a 33k at the very end, as you can see. And, you know, he probably could have killed a turn earlier with some better draws. There was a couple turns there that weren't really as optimized, but also keep in mind that we're missing about, you know, 5 to 6 morale on some of our upgrades that we could do. So there's honestly even more damage that we can optimize with this, but I'm calling this like my early showcase, early preview, early theory crafting, whatever it is. Like, I'm not saying that this is the most perfect build of the OTK, but it's at least good enough to help you guys get started, find some of those upgrades along the way, and hopefully start to guide you in the right direction, which is why I want to do this video and showcase the full build. So what is your favorite version of Chizuru so far? Definitely let me know down in the comments below. But until next time, my friends, stay safe, stay hydrated, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.